In this video series, I will provide perspective, historical fact, and critical analyses of the current political landscape that gave cause for the resurgence of the American government, as we are taking the needed steps to restore our lawful government here in America. I will present to you how it is being done. The Federation of States has secured and offers to you your rightful claim to your inheritance as an American. And we ask that you join your fellow American state nationals in the work of finishing the reconstruction of our constitutionally guaranteed Republican form of government. Welcome back, America and the world, to today's episode of the Resurgence Post Report. I am your host, Louise Campbell Anthony, with the Peacekeeping Task Force for the Federation of States, that is, the United States of America, Unincorporated. In my first 5 episodes, I have laid out the proofs and the developments that have happened over the past century that paints the reality for us that we have a de facto government running this country in the absence of our de jure government. Let me define these 2 terms for you. De facto refers to what exists in practice or reality, while de jure refers to what is established by law. A de facto leader, for instance, exercises authority without legal right, whereas a de jure leader possesses the legal right to rule regardless of their actual power. I like how the World Bank compares them. It defines a de facto government as one that seizes or retains power through means not outlined in the country's constitution, like a coup. This is the unfortunate situation we have in America today, and in the world for that matter, but not for much longer. Our lawful, constitutionally guaranteed de jure government has been restored and is under reconstruction. 50 states of the Union have been called into session since October 1st, 2020. Their assemblies are populated with properly declared Americans. With this episode, I will begin presenting to you how this is being done. Let me take you back in time to July 2021, after all the 50 state assemblies had been in general session, then for 9 months, and they began to discuss and contemplate how will the state assemblies approach their counties after being absent for over 150 years. These discussions took place as part of the Federation Support Project led by the Federation's executive officer, Harold Hines. Listen to this series of audio clips.
Last night we did have a good meeting, and in that meeting we sort of started with kind of throwing it open for nomination of topics, and then kind of narrowing it down, and then we went into a discussion period on those topics. Rather than do that directly tonight, we can cheat, because I did write down those things that we kind of seemed most interested in. And we can certainly tonight add to that list. But one of the things that clearly showed up was this whole idea of why we're even doing this work, and what is the real underlying interest in the idea of the assembly-county relationship. What's it really all about? Why are we here? And to kind of kick it off, I mean, it seems to me that there are 3 basic reasons that the assemblies need to think very carefully about approaching the counties and developing that relationship. If for no other reason, first of all, the dialogue the other way around is kind of hard. In other words, how does the county say, hey, assembly, pay attention to me? As opposed to if the assembly shows up and says, hey, we really need your help, we really need you involved, it has a lot more of that speech about, I'm the Fed and I'm here to help you. And you got to set that agenda, you got to have that conversation and make it meaningful. But the real reason is that, frankly, the the counties represent the government unit that is closest to the people. And that's the key. Try as you may, you're never going to get a state organization to be as close to the people as the county level type community oriented approach. So that's one of the really big keys of this, is how to tie that close to the people issue to the assembly in a constructive and positive sort of way. Secondly, there is the issue of service delivery. And again, you may not have thought about it, but in whatever county you live in, there's all kinds of people who deliver services to the public. And again, that's where the we the people idea meets the rubber of the road. And it's important that that part be understood, the importance of the county in doing that. It's overlooked in many states, and it's very lightly treated, but yet it is the fundamental basic level for a lot of key services. Not in any way to diminish what the state does and other groups, but the county is really pretty key in that. And then finally, the county represents the group that in the most visible sort of way has the public assets. And it's the most visible thing we see of finances. Who takes money in, who puts money out. And I know there's a lot bigger dollars thrown around in Washington, D.C., and there's a lot bigger dollars thrown around in the capital city of your state. But frankly, the thing you read about in the paper and people get uptight about and go to the meetings about and everything are at that county level. And that's, again, a place where there's not necessarily all the money, but the dialogue around that money is really key to determining the kind of government the people see and have and want. And so those are kind of three of the pieces. If there's somebody else that'd like to offer something up, I would yield the floor gladly.
May I?
Dave, go right ahead.
This is Terry. One of the things that we are looking at balancing in Washington Herald is the fact that in the history of Washington, we have several very large counties, is what I'm trying to say. And they have a tendency of dominating the state.
Yep.
And we want to ensure that every county has a voice and has their own representation that is on equal footing somehow.
Terry, Terry, that's a real one. And again, the observation I'll make to you right away is there's two sides to that issue. The assembly is going to look at it and say, how big a voice do we give the counties? And how does that affect how we structure and run and deal with assembly level issues? Versus the county saying, hey, wait a minute, we're 80% of the thing, but we're only, 50% of the action. How do we get a feeling that people in this county are properly heard and carried forward? And that's a two-sided conversation if there ever was one. And it is going to require that both sides of that conversation come from the assembly. We want assembly people looking at the county and thinking county, and we want assembly people thinking assembly and dealing with that conversation so that it ends up at a good solution in that state. And again, depending on a lot of things, not the least of which is the status of the current legislative and executive branch in your state, the state of, folks, their status has a lot of impact how that conversation sounds. we have in this group of 80 of us a unique first-time opportunity. We are the first group made up of people from all the states that is not a federation activity. This is, you all are here on your own, gang, okay? Lee and I are just simply trying to help, okay? And one of your assignments, in case you didn't read the fine print in the original notice about this, was that each state's team of people in this discussion group were to report to their assembly. So, what I suggest we do is several of us volunteer to tell our story about the danger of politics and why they've got to stay on the straight and narrow if they're going to be a good assembly. Okay. One thing on our idea of maybe speaking up in a way that several people make a tape that goes to the assemblies. If we can pull that off, I can promise I can get my boss to do at least some cameo appearance indicating that she has indeed heard that and she feels very comfortable with these kind of thoughts being expressed to the assembly for their consideration. Okay? And if most of you don't, if some of you don't know what that means, I work for Anna directly, okay? And you know, there would be no problem for her to look at what we might do and see that as an opportunity to increase the communication level on a topic that she feels strongly about, but it's not appropriate for her at times to talk to the assemblies about certain things, frankly. I mean, she needs to stay at a level above some stuff. And on the other hand, that doesn't prevent any of us from speaking up. Any of you who know us, Lee and I don't need to prove our credentials as being willing to speak up. So
this is the third meeting of this first week, and so we'd like to stay as focused as we can and as close to the fact that the assemblies have grown from zero to something. And what we're really here thinking about is the next level. And frankly, most of the assemblies are not ready tomorrow to go to that next level. But they will be. And they will be in not that long in the future. And to do that is going to require some different types of thinking and being prepared to do some different kinds of things that got us off the peg from zero. Sometimes launching is one set of issues, and at this point we're mid-flight. Let's put it that way. And you know, we still have a lot of altitude to gain and other things to do, but it's going to take some different thinking, and that's what we're about. So, if I could just ask you to always sort of try to stay as close to the idea of assemblies and counties for now, realizing we're going to probably open up some other cans of worms. I see also, Carmen, you had raised your hand. Please go ahead.
I heard the three answers for why we are developing counties or restructuring through the county level, but without understanding, it just seems to me like we're reconstructing a state, and the county are the rooms within the building, and I don't understand why we are not doing this as reconstructing 50 states as opposed to over 3,300 counties.
Wow, I love this topic, Carmen. Thank you. Thank you. Carmen here, I think, is a question that we've tried to address a little bit, but I think it's worth drawing as many of you into it as we can. And so this first topic then is the basic idea of what the devil are we doing? Why are we doing it? What's really at stake here? What this is really all about? What's the objective? Okay? Lee and I both struggled with trying to write a mission, a purpose statement, blah, blah, blah. All the traditional things that you think of with projects and other things, we tried to express it all in a sentence or two. And we had a lot of trouble. So as all this progresses, frankly, over weeks, if any of you have a brilliant insight and you can get it down to a paragraph, if you would write it down, I'd sure appreciate it on it. But Carmen, let me sort of kick it off with at least one answer to, I think, the question, but I am really interested in other people's answer also. But one of the reasons we focused on the counties is 3 to 4-fold, okay? And I'll just recite the 3 because they're easiest for me to remember. One is the counties, in terms of governance in this country, are the closest to the people. They are local. They are communities. They are communities, back then, at the time of the founding of the country, we might have called them towns or villages or something like that. But they still exist as the basic, close to the people unit of governance. And that is vital because the overall big 50,000-foot objective of what we're doing is to take what has turned out to be, not what the designers of this nation wanted. What has turned out is a top-down command and control system that functions Washington, D.C., state capitals, and frankly, even sometimes in the counties themselves. Okay? We have set as the objective to turn that around, and turn it around in the sense to get the people, we the people, as the driver of governance. And things, instead of flowing down, flow up from the people. And the only way I know to do that is you got to get to those 3,300 sources of local input, and you got to tie them into the puzzle, and you have to strengthen the relationship. And so we've called that part building the foundation. And again, we got the assemblies from 0 to something, but we need to make sure now that we go back and look at the counties and make sure we've done everything we can to make sure that, again, we the people is the strong part of their existence. The second element is pretty clear that folks forget that counties are the key to services delivery. The federal government delivers the services to people, a state does, but the county does. And if you go through the list, again, of what's near and dear and close to the heart, counties always show up on the list of things that people like about their government or they don't like about their government. And that's one of the focuses we have to have. We have to make sure that the counties and the state are linking in the delivery of services. We got to get away from the federal government being the major delivery of services. Because again, the Federation is prepared to step into the role, but not at that level of detail and involvement in everything that goes on in this country. It is basically a nation still driven by the states and the local communities. And then the third thing, of course, is that, very frankly, the public assets are held largely at the county level. And while there are assets that kind of fall in other categories, if you look around everything in your part of the world, those are supposed to be county entities. And you will be surprised as we work through this process and discover how many of them are not anymore because they were sold and things like that. Okay, so again, we've got to get back to stable there because basically it all comes down to finances. Counties are one of the major taxing authorities, and they're one of the major budgeting spending authorities. And again, it is one that is within reach of the people, and we got to find a way to make that work. Now, I don't know if anybody else wants to pick on some other good things about why you got to have counties or why you care about them.
The recording is on. So hello to everybody. We have 10 participants in this meeting today, and we are still on the Assembly County Relationship Group with the Federation Support Project. Today is August 6th, 2021, and this is the second meeting. We're going into our second week, and I want to remind everybody that we're still on the topic concerning the homework assignment, covering how different are the counties in your state. We trust you all have had a great week and a prosperous week, and I'm going to go in and read the Babbage Declaration. Okay, so I guess the question is, are we ready to talk about the homework assignment? Harold, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. And
Okay. Yes, I'm ready. Yay! The Federation is not involved with the counties. Between the Federation level of government and the counties is a thing called the Assembly. And so what we're really worried about is Assembly relationships to the county. And then the Assembly has relationships with the Federation. Okay? And it's not directly down. I'm sorry, the Federation threw up its hands a long time ago and said, you gotta be kidding, there's over 3,000 counties. How the devil are we gonna deal with that? We have enough trouble with 50 states. Okay, so, again, you're on the right wavelength, but think of it as where the communication is really taking place, and it doesn't skip levels. Counties do not talk to the Federation, and the Federation isn't talking to the counties. Okay? Now, you're absolutely right, and believe it or not, people do think of funny little diagrams trying to explain relationships. And this was a first attempt on my part to deal with the Federation, because we're never going to have too many people. Again, the Army right now is, maybe all the way up to 3 or 4, and that's it. And we've got to fit together, not in a chart sense, okay? Because in essence, we're trying to run a big family business, and it's more like the blobs on the diagram need to look like puzzle pieces that kind of fit together. And it's not that they're connected by lines or where they are, they're just sort of clustered around, and parts of them stick together and they link up. Because this is always at the Federation level going to be a small staff type operation. Because the key to the Federation is the assemblies. And getting the assemblies up and running is the key to having that as a performing entity. And so, what do we do? Well, okay, right now, I could argue you got Lee and I sitting here, you got half the Federation workforce right now sitting on this conversation with you, because we think it's important that the assemblies build bondage with the counties, and we think it's important to the counties to build bondage with the assemblies. And we love you all, but you got to have that conversation, and all we're trying to do is provide a basis for you to have information to think about your alternatives, think about other things that you might think about, not think about alone. So we can have in this group here, we can have a whole bunch of other assemblies, and you can get some help from the Federation. We can find some experts for you if that would help. And certainly in the legal field, that's an entirely appropriate idea. And so on. So being attentive to what we want ourselves to look like at the level of the assemblies in the future is a key question. But it's a question to be answered by each assembly themselves. There is no one answer. There is no correct answer. There's no wrong answer, but there's no correct answer either. Okay? But whatever the answer is, that's the one the assembly that thought it up is going to have to go with. And so we want that assembly to have the best information possible to move forward on that. And again, I know, Ahmad, that it doesn't really answer your question, but you're thinking the right things. I think I just really ask that you focus right now on the assembly and counties. And in a matter of a few weeks, we're going to throw open this whole thing about what does the existing state government really look like? And are there things we could do that improve the situation? What if we left that government in place? Okay? What if we didn't fire them all? We said, okay, you're misdirected and maybe not the smartest bunch, but you're there. Okay? But here's what we really want you to do. And it is within your power to do it. I would argue that that would not be improper for an assembly to think about hiring those guys as subcontractors.
Let me quote the executive officer of the Federation of States, Harold Hines, to bring into view the perspective that I want to set for this episode. And I quote, "We'd like to stay as focused as we can and as close to the fact that the assemblies have grown from zero to something. And what we're really here thinking about is the next level. And frankly, most of the assemblies are not ready tomorrow to go to that next level, but they will be. And they will be, and not that long in the future. And to do that is going to require some different types of thinking and being prepared to do some different kinds of things that got us off the peg from zero. Sometimes launching is one set of issues, and at this point, we're mid-flight. Let's put it that way. And we still have a lot of altitude to gain and other things to do, but it's going to take some different thinking, and that's what we are about. I just learned a month ago that these discussions had taken place back starting in July of 2021. I don't know what resulted from this Federation support project, but now fast forward 4 years later, of July of 2025, a project that intends to take the state assemblies to that next level was launched by the Peacekeeping Task Force for the Federation of States. Let me introduce you to the PKTF. Let's back up prior to the States of the Union being called into session. The Federation team was considering that if we had had an organization in place when the state of emergency was declared back in 1861 by President Abraham Lincoln, before the illegal mercenary conflict ensued, aka American Civil War, before the British Territorial U.S. military takeover, aka coup, it could have sounded the alarm and prevented the devastation of our communities and the usurpation of our lawful de jure American government. Now, after the Federation's attempts were made to get the de facto to stand down, failed in 2014 and 2015 and 2016, such an organization was born. The Federation chartered an American service provider and called it the Peacekeeping Task Force. This organization is who I work for. I am the affiliate director of the Peacekeeping Task Force, also known as the PKTF. We were chartered by the American government initially to provide this country with governmental services that will protect you and your assets in times of emergencies. We have two fundamental tasks or priorities to accomplish this. Number one, it's our job to network with all the public safety and police organizations like National Guard, Homeland Security, Provost Marshal, City Police, County Sheriffs, and others to promote mutual understanding and cooperation to better serve the people of this country in the event of a natural or man-made disaster or an invasion or border attack by coordinating a state border defense and emergency response. And the way PKTF looks at this is from the view of the individual, because in our Republican form of government, the right of the individual is paramount. When an emergency strikes, it strikes some individual somewhere at a location on a map. So while states will naturally view state border defense from a map like this, The Peacekeeping Task Force views state border defense from a map like this. These are the borders of our nation states, our union states, where the people actually live. The PKTF is tasked with building networks of communication across these borders on this map, secure channels of communication that sends and receives verified messages from your county officers to your state officers, to your federation officers, to your federal officers, in that order. And when an emergency happens, more often than not, a crime is happening somewhere in the midst. When people experience an emergency, your first line of defense is your county sheriff, who is the highest peacekeeping officer in the American government within his or her own county borders. Today, there's only a handful of publicly elected American common law county sheriffs among our 3,100 plus counties. These sheriffs uphold the public law. While you may think that that tornado or that forest fire was a natural disaster, these common law county sheriffs investigate to find out, was it natural or man-made? Was it a border attack or was it malfeasance? When you get mail from government services corporations threatening to take your home for failure to pay some amount of fine, fee, or tax, these common law county sheriffs investigate whether this is mail fraud and extortion, or whether it is a civil matter of delinquency on a valid contract on your part. When your child suffers an adverse reaction to medications or vaccinations, these common law county sheriffs investigate that evidence, because there is no immunity under our law for harm done by military officers or de facto government employees, which in this case happens to be a doctor. And yes, medical doctors have been conscripted as uniformed officers under Title 37. The directors of the PKTF constantly receive emails of distressed nationals experiencing personal emergencies. And we hear many properly declared American state nationals asking the questions: if you are the real government, then why am I being unlawfully convicted for failure to file a voluntary IRS tax return? Why are these police officers citing me with a traffic violation when I'm clearly not driving in a commercial capacity as their foreign law requires? Why are these corporations still in business? And it's been proven many times over that they are poisoning our food, our water, and our air. To you state nationals from the PKTF's view, you have only one remedy. You are waiting for the Federation to stop them. You're waiting for the state assembly to stop them. You may even be expecting the de facto constitutional sheriffs to stop them. This is evidence of the residues of that top-down thinking you are still operating from. Your protection comes from the enforcement power of a publicly elected common law county sheriff and the voice of the local people assembled in their de jure capacity as a county assembly. They are the ones with the highest authority who can stop all of this criminality from happening to you and your family, your friends, and your neighbors. When you fully integrate into your thinking the American common law standards of justice, your attention to local self-governance will become your priority. Not even a Federation officer is safe in his or her own home without a publicly elected common law sheriff and a local county assembly government in place to protect them and their assets from the de facto government's criminal acts or the corporation's unlawful activities. And since the PKTF is not your government, we can't stop them either. What is the difference between a common law county sheriff and the county sheriff you have now? I'm glad you asked. You see, let me remind you that your local governments are run by private, commercial, franchise corporations in the business of providing governmental services. Your county sheriffs you have now are elected by the shareholders of these franchise corporations, who are the U.S. citizens, in an election conducted in public, although not public in the true sense. They are not elected to a public office. In these private elections held in public, the federal U.S. citizens are voting for their corporate officers to hold corporate seats in their private corporations. Their law is a foreign law to the American common law and to the law of the land, which is our organic constitution. They deceptively refer to their foreign law as a constitution. According to their law, their corporate sheriff can use his or her own discretion and choose whether to protect you or the interests of the corporation he or she works for. While under our American common law, the county sheriff's only public duty is to protect you and your assets, because our de jure county government is unincorporated. You can see how their corporate office comes with an inherent conflict of interest. To increase the chances of the PKTF successfully coordinating efforts to protect your borders in times of emergencies, we need a publicly elected American common law sheriff and a de jure county assembly government established to stop crime from exacerbating the already disastrous emergency. Job number 2, looming above and beyond all that we do with state border defense and emergency response, is the transitional national civilian government occupation that the PKTF is ultimately slated to perform. To end the illegal mercenary or military occupation requires that our de jure government provides America and the world with a competent civilian alternative. We developed a strategic plan for that. It's called the American Government's Resurgence Project. The project has 2 main objectives. 1, to gain recognition from the American people, our employees, and the world nations as America's de jure government. And 2, to end the 160 years of criminal fraud schemes and usurpation by our de facto government employees. It took 17 months for me and a team of state nationals to develop this project. Let me rewind the tape for you and show you how we took on a different type of thinking, as Harold puts it, to craft a strategy that could produce that competent civilian alternative. Let me roll the tape.
Go ahead, Louise.
Hello. Hi, Anna. I appreciate you. I want to say that every time I get a chance to speak to you. Appreciate you. I got some inspired ideas that came to my mind that I wanted to run past you. I didn't know if I had the authority to do the things that I was thinking. So what I was thinking is, I came up with the idea of starting this international notice postcard campaign to let people know they need to come claim their inheritances. Then I thought, okay, and I could connect that to a website so they can come and learn about what that means, what the fraud was about, why it is that they didn't hear about this inheritance that they can come claim. And then I put up a website called claimyourinheritance.info. And then I thought, okay, well, let me see how I can get these postcards out. So I contacted Staples and they said, well, yeah, we can mail out your postcards. And I learned from them that you can mail them out per zip code. And I thought, oh, well, the assemblies can use this. If you mail it out per zip code, they can target the zip codes and then have meetings in those zip codes and work their way throughout the whole state and introduce the assembly officers and everything to each county at a time and get people signed up at the meetings and things like that. But I don't know if I can do that. So I said, well, let me ask Anna if I could start a postcard campaign to put an international public notice in everybody's mailbox to let them know they need to come claim their inheritance. Here's my postcard. See, it has the Federation's symbol on it. It says International Public Notice by the United States of America Unincorporated. You may have a birthright inheritance waiting to come claim. Contact your local American State Assembly at I can't read, I ain't got my glasses on. Claimyourinheritance.info. And on the back, if you can see the back, it says the Federation of States have recouped the birthright assets of every American back from the criminal foreign government service corporations. This notice is to inform you that your ancestral and financial inheritances are being held by the Federation of States on your behalf if you are an American until you come claim them. For more information, visit claimyourinheritance.info. And then I put up a website that has a short video of the fraud and things like that, to let people understand what it is about. And then on the website, I got research from your articles and your videos on that website. I winded up digging into your articles and categorizing everything. I winded up with a document, much like how to build an assembly, how it's all categorized. Well, I did one on why to correct your why to correct your political status is on that website. It's like 219 pages, all in categories.
Wow.
So I was like, I don't know if I should be doing this, because I don't know if I have the authority to do this. So I need to ask Anna about this idea.
Well, you're right to ask. It sounds like you really got yourself on fire here and came up with some real good marketing ideas to get more people involved. And that's wonderful. I don't see anything wrong with the way you're presenting your postcard. I just, the one caution I'd have is that, some people might think, oh yeah, well, they've got this all together right now and, we're going to get paid tomorrow. And we are close. We're working hard on the bank, but we don't have it together quite yet. Believe me, it's been just one thing after another. And now this most recent realization that the Federal Reserve really is owned by us is causing even more trouble, because now they realize that someone has to handle the debt. And they aren't aware of how much we've brought back in recoupment already from the legacy trusts that we are owed. So it's a mess. Would it be possible to work with you on a kind of a one-on-one basis and just, let us look at your website and kind of go through the information, make sure it's up to date, and talk with you about it and make sure we got it all right before you release it?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, but I think it's an awesome marketing strategy and idea, and it's something that we could definitely target. We could target those counties that are right around those facilities we already have established, and then do outreach from there and grow in a more, I guess,
way.
a more
Focused.
organized way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, I've got Louise behind me now, so I think we'll get it done.
She's a powerhouse, isn't she?
Yeah.
I can't believe her. She's a go person. Go.
Yeah. I've been having phone conversations with her. I yield.
That's it. I yield.
Thank you, Louise.
Just so everybody knows, Louise has been working on this tirelessly for a year. And she's done really, really excellent work. And, I just make little tiny tweaks and, but she's really been doing yeoman service. And we should all give her a big round of applause.
Thank you, Anna.
Way to go, Louise, and everybody working on that, and especially Louise, because you've been spearheading this the whole time. So thank you for your tireless efforts. It's going to help all of us.
Yes, it will.
Okay, and then I was asking questions about the county assembly. So I would like to start bringing the county assemblies together. I got several interested counties. We're ready to start getting the United States structure together,
Right.
and in that type of setting. And I wanted to know if I can go ahead and start organizing that.
Yeah, well, sure. We haven't spent a lot of time getting the counties organized, but they are uh, beginning to organize, and they do need some guidance. The big difference between the state and the county is the jurisdiction. The county has the national jurisdiction, and the state has the international jurisdiction. And basically, what this means is that the county is supreme within its county borders, right? And the county assembly has the complete plenary control of what goes on in their county. But if they want to, engage in some sort of an international matter, then they go through their state assembly. The Union state is supreme on the soil. The states of the Union are supreme on international jurisdiction. And so county has to wrap its mind around what is the national jurisdiction? What does that look like? What kinds of powers are implied? What kinds of responsibilities are implied for the county? And that's just a little learning process that they don't have to get permission from the state assembly to do anything, so long as they're operating in their own jurisdiction and not usurping upon the states.
Denise, go ahead, Denise.
Hi, yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Michelle. Hi, Anna. I just wanted to say how much I love working with Louise on the model county. It's been fantastic. We just feel like such a launch and so excited about everything. This has really regenerated and energized our assembly. And I just hope that all other assemblies working with us, it's such a shared, loving experience. And we need 10 more Louises, so thank you. Thank you for that, and I yielded that. Appreciate it.
Just the thought of 10 Louises is making chills go up and down my spine.
I know.
We'd be at the moon by now.
Yes, exactly. She's fantastic, so thank you so much for everything.
Anna, are you available this week? I have some important questions about county assembly that I need answers to, added to all the other questions I already had, but you haven't replied to yet. I recorded an audio of the video slides thinking maybe you can listen on the go to give final check if the information is accurate. We should not need to have to add any additional info to it. See if this link helps us get this part done. And if we can, you can just answer my many questions. https claimyourinheritance.info WP content uploads 2025-05 International Public Notice Final.mp3. Thank you, Louise, for your kindness and patience. You are the only person who has consistently borne with me through this great ordeal. The audio above is 100% approved. Go forth and conquer. If anyone can listen to this and still not catch the drift of what went on here, well, it won't be because you didn't tell them. God bless you, sister. Let America, the real America, rise.
I'm going to move on to Louise. Louise, what motivated you to volunteer with the Peacekeeping Task Force, and what are some of your goals serving as the affiliated director?
Thank you, Tammy. So what motivated me, to be honest, it was actually an unexpected invitation by Joe and Kathy. And it started like this. So back February 2024, I got this inspiration to do this international public notice campaign to let America know about the fraud and that they've been unlawfully converted to foreign citizen status and they need to correct their political status, and we need to restore our American government. And so when I got that inspiration, I created my postcard. I created this funnel. I was going to use the postcard. The postcard was going to lead them to this website. This website was going to lead them to the state assemblies. The state assemblies was going to sign everybody up. And so I had all this laid out, but I wanted to use the Federation's logo, the seal. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm authorized to use this seal. So I went to ask Anna on one of the coordinator calls. Anna, can I use the seal to run this campaign and to do this and to let the people know and start this rescue mission? Because I felt like what we were doing as I was listening in the assemblies and listening to all the training, I was feeling like we need to get out there. We need to get out there. We're not getting out there. We need to get out there. And so that's why I think I was inspired with the postcard campaign, because I had that sense of emergency, you know. So when she told me, yes, I could use it, and I was like telling her, and I can see how we can use this strategically. Every state can use it to go county by county, and we can, you know, strategically do this. And she was like, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, you can use it. So when I guess you saw that and you called me or texted me or emailed me something, said, oh, Louise, we heard about your campaign. Can you come to the International Outreach Think Tank and present the outreach campaign that you talked about? I'm like, and I really didn't know you. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I came to the International Outreach Think Tank meeting and presented it to the think tank, told you about the international postcard and the website and, you know, doing county tours. And you all was like, yeah, we want to do that. I'm like, y'all sure y'all want to do this? Because this is what I'm thinking about, because I was going to do it by myself, but it was going to be on a small scale, right? Just what I can handle. And then y'all was like, yeah, that's a good idea. We want to do some outreach. We want to do that. That is strategic. I can see us really making headway. And you all were like, I was like, well, I got the support. So yeah, we can do this. And I'm like, I got some other ideas. You want to hear those? And y'all was like, yeah, what else you got? So as you all was supporting what I was saying, the inspirations that just kept coming, I'm like, well, once we do the international public notice postcard, we can do the county tours, and then we can put our education on steroids. We could create this TV platform that talks about education videos. We can have our online school platform. Then we can have our news blog over here in print. This is our printed news. So while we're out there doing our county tours, all the nationals can report back what's happening on the ground, and we can put it on our news platform. Y'all was like, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, okay, let's do that. I got some more. Y'all was like, yeah, let's hear it. So I said, to culminate all of this, we can do a 3-day event where we take to the public stage and let America know and let the nation know that American government is restored. And then we can invite our subcontractors to the carpet. Say, if they don't show up, then we let America know that what they're doing is cricket. And y'all was like, oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. And I was like, I got some more.
Yeah, your ideas just kept flowing like one after the other. I don't know what was happening, Louise, but and when you came on to the International Outreach Think Tank meeting, you know, and just for those who don't know what that is we were just state nationals from all across America coming together and combining resources, really. You know, because we didn't have that many people experienced with, you know, doing different kinds of marketing and what was the right, you know, what was going to be the buzzwords that would attract people and get their attention to actually listen to what we had to say. So when you presented your postcard campaign, everybody on that call that night was really moved and inspired by your project. And the thing that I loved most about it was the fact that you were making it an international notice, an international public notice. And and then, you know, it just started to evolve and everybody saw this beautiful, well laid out project that had different phases that made sense. It was logical. And so, you know, I think that's why it was embraced as much as it is. So I think it was, a beautiful project. It is a beautiful project. And in fact, Louise has created a YouTube channel. I have that link going across the bottom of the screen. So if you want to see the work that she's been doing with this project, she has it laid out there, explaining the whole process, everything. Louise, from my understanding, you're offering it to all 50 states, but it's, obviously no requirement for anybody to use it, but it's a beautiful resource. And like I said, most of us felt that it was really well laid out, all encompassing outreach. It really is outreach effort. And I, for one, really love the TV platform. I feel like instead of these talking heads that we have on our news channel, that we could actually have real people having real conversations and talking about real things that are happening in their lives. And I will point out, I'm just going to do a little plug for Louise here. She did start doing an advisory interview process. So she has real Americans that she's been doing one-on-one interviews with, and telling their personal stories. And some of these stories are so egregious. The crimes that have been pushed upon the people. And so I love that you are spotlighting their stories and getting that out to the public, because I think that's important for us to report on. But yeah. I don't mean to interrupt you. Can you continue?
So that what I just described was like 5 phases. I just kept laying it on. But then it got to a 6th phase that just kind of this inspiration came. And it was the 6th phase was, the inspiration was, we need to go to our governors. Every state need to address the governor, and have our county sheriffs go address the governors and have them raise our peace flag, because peace has been declared on the land. We need to raise our peace flag, require them to raise the peace flag on that county building, and put in their courtyards a big billboard that says, correct your political status. And we need to demand them to stand down and transfer the governance and the power and control back to the American government. And I brought that to the international think tank, and I was like, I don't think we have the authority or the power to do this phase right here. And then you told me about the Peacekeeping Task Force. I didn't know who the Peacekeeping Task Force was. And you said, because I said, I think the county sheriffs could do this. And I called it Anna's capitulation tour. I think at that time, that's the best term I could use to articulate what I'm trying to do with this phase. And I said, Anna don't even have to leave her home. We can have our county sheriffs out there going to the state capitals. And you said, well, you could contact the Peacekeeping Task Force and contact Joe Hayes to see if they can help with this. And so that's how I got involved with the Peacekeeping Task Force. You gave me the email, and I emailed Joe, and I waited. A month passed. I'm like, let me email again. I don't know, how else to get a hold of him. Then he emails me back, says, yes, I am interested, and we can set up a meeting. So I finally got a meeting with Joe and Kathy, not knowing who they were, not knowing who the Peacekeeping Task Force, but I just know I think I need you all for this particular phase. So I need to tell y'all about it. So we got on free conference call meeting, and here I meet Joe and Kathy. And they're so pleasant, and they're telling me about the Peacekeeping Task Force. And I tell them about why I wanted to meet with them. And so I go in telling them about phase 3 of my project. It's a stand down phase, and I need peacekeepers to rally together and to go meet the governors and tell them about going from county to county. So while the American state assemblies was going county to county to introduce themselves as the American government in the postcard campaign, I was like, we need the peacekeepers, the county sheriffs, and the Peacekeeping Task Force to go county to county, meeting with the governors and telling them raise that peace flag. And I'm going on, and I'm going to, and I'm like, and we need our fiduciary's time. We need to make sure she's using her time wisely, and I need to get her ear to tell her about the project and all this kind. And I'm going on, and then Joe interjects and says, "Yeah, we know. we've been following the international outreach think tank videos and the work you've been doing. It's a great, grandiose project, and he just starts going on about the project that he already knew about, and he was like, it's far advanced in what we've seen, and we need talent like yours. And he goes to start talking about his newsletter about legacy funding and how this is going to their gesture of supporting people who come on the peacekeeping task force. We want to support you, and they were telling me all this, and it was funny because the audio on the free conference call was going in and out, and I was like, okay. Okay, what is that now? And he was telling me, him and Kathy introduces herself and says who they are, and I'm like, okay. And then he goes in to say, it's the company side that Kathy referred to. There's the company side, and then there's the management side, and I'm like, okay. I'm waiting for him to tell me, yes, he's going to do the project, right? He's going to, I need him to take that on so I can do this over here with the outreach think tank, right? And then he starts to say, well, it's just me and Kathy. And, and we look for people like your talent and everything. And what you do is so far beyond what we've seen. It's like, and I'm thinking he's about to tell me it's only me and Kathy, so we can't do it. That's what I'm thinking, actually. But he actually went on to say how the project that I was developing was so advanced that he wanted me to come aboard the peacekeeping task force as the affiliate director. And he told me that he wanted me to focus on the 50 state assemblies, while he and Kathy focus on the foreign nations, the foreign state assemblies. And he wanted me to build out my vision and to make it a model for all the nations of the world can follow to build their land and soil jurisdiction government. That's what we want you to do, but no pressure. I'm like, okay.
And you do have, I believe, I know Tara Australis has been on the think tank meetings, and they're really interested in your project. And I believe other nations as well, probably Canada, but
yes, Canada, Ireland, and I believe Spain as well through translation.
Nice, yeah.
In South Africa.
Oh, yeah, South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's great, great work, and so that's the story in a nutshell. So I love how you all are building out.
Let me say this, Tammy. I after I finished talking to them, I called you, not after, but a few days after. You wanted to know how did it go? Were they going to do phase 3, right? And I was like, well, Tammy, I think they hired me.
That's right.
I said, I think it was an interview. I don't think I'm getting paid though, even though they talked about some money. But I think I'm an affiliate director they want me to be. And I told you, Tammy, I said, but I asked them, am I going to be doing this project? Because this is what I want to do. They said, yeah, this is what we want you to be focusing on. I'm like, well, okay, I'm in.
That's great.
So for those who's here now and for those who's going to be watching the replay, I prepared this official project launch presentation because I want to commemorate this time in history. This is a pivotal time in history where we've taken another step forward. We graduated again, where we have launched the American Government Resurgence Project after, 17 months of development. The initial idea spawning from that one little postcard idea that I presented to Anna in that coordinator training call back February 2024 is when it started. And as people came on board and saw the potential of the project, it went 17 months into development. To July 1st, we actually launched the project. We're commemorating that in history, and that's what this presentation is about. We've launched the American Government Resurgence Project, phase 1, phase 1A, phase 2, and soon phase 3 is following behind, and I didn't do it by myself. I want to thank all of you that we've accomplished this together. If I missed your name, I'm sorry, but I've tried to give recognition to everybody that I could think of that I said, hey, can you do this? That pitched in a tweak here, a tweak there, a talent here, a talent there, a correction here, correction there. We did this. And I thank you for all of the assistance that I've gotten thus far. But you know what? We still have phases 4, 5, and 6 to complete for us to achieve our mission for 2028. The de facto government is not going to just fly a white flag and surrender. They make 7-year plans, 10-year plans, and even 50-year plans. That is a measure of their competence as a government. They need to, in order to keep continuity of services going for the American public. They're not going to just stop operating, even though they are operating unlawfully. If they did that, it would create massive chaos and civil unrest. They know that, and the Peacekeeping Task Force knows that. So we expect that the de jure assembly governments know that too, and really don't want them to do that either. We have to first provide a competent civilian alternative that they can pass control off to. What does that entail? That requires the real American de jure government to also make strategic plans in 7-year, 10-year, and even 50-year increments to prove their competence to govern. Strategic planning is what the PKTF service provides within our scope of work. These strategic plans move painstakingly slow when the U.S. citizens are in denial. There are a lot of good innocent Americans out there occupying what appear to be public offices, that they believe are public offices, that they were elected to serve. It is going to be hard for them to grasp the fact that they are instead functioning as elected private corporate officers that are part of a foreign corporation operated by an equally foreign government that is improperly usurping jurisdiction. We have to tell them that anyway and make them responsible for their actions. They can take the proper affirmation and start operating as public officials of the rightful government on the land, because we don't take oaths, or they can openly admit what their actual office is. But in either case, all obfuscation and confusion about their status has to end. Once their status is made clear, our status as American state nationals will be equally obvious. The PKTF has made a plan to accomplish this too. Since 2022, the executive director of the PKTF, Joe Hayes, has been looking at the transitional competence of our government from a 30,000-foot view. This is how he noticed right off the bat the far-reaching potential of the Resurgence project and provided the Federation oversight and support to get it off the ground. Now that we have that plan off the ground, we have turned our attention to this aspect about U.S. citizens being in denial. We've launched a new podcast called Sovereign Peacekeeping Matters Discussion Podcast, hosted by Joe, where we tackle this aspect from a peacekeeper's perspective, from the perspective of those who have committed themselves to serve our communities as guardians and protectors of peace and justice, those who intended and thought that they held public offices and served the true public good. These are the officials and officers who we all are at the mercy of and trust to do the right thing, the lawful thing. But how can they when they don't even know the law? They just know private bylaws and municipal codes and statutes. This new podcast walks us through the pre-Reconstruction years of our de jure government up through today, analyzing what the response has been by our peace officers and public servants who don't know they are Americans, who have accepted jobs to protect the foreign corporation's interests at the expense of protecting America and Americans first, but are oblivious to these facts. To you U.S. citizens, you too have a birthright as an American and a duty to America first, although you have chosen employment with our foreign government service providers to act as a U.S. citizen, To be employed as a U.S. citizen is perfectly okay if, and that's a big if, you are adhering to the organic constitutional contracts above and beyond your corporation's bylaws, municipal statutes, and codes. And we need to make you aware of this too. Any citizenship status is merely temporary. Your nationality is permanent. So while you are temporarily employed as a U.S. citizen, you forever remain an American state national before, during, and after. Let me play for you an excerpt from our podcast, episode 8, Civil Orders Delivered, Peacekeepers Silent. Listen.
But we are moving into the Peace Bridge Network podcast series. This particular series is going to be a two-parter, and we are going to go over what is now known or seen as, perceived as, civil orders betrayed, and then PKTF's inevitable rise. This is going to go off of Articles 6 through 9 and just kind of see how the inevitability came from what had been placed on the public record during 2014 on and on. We did mention that this is going to be our effort as we venture into each and every article provided by the Federation and see where the Peacekeeping Task Force fits in its preconceived years, and have a lot of fun with going through and painstakingly going through each and every article as we discover them. We are going to try to continue to maintain the theme of every article that we can locate that has a substantive peacekeeping content in there, and we want to empathize with the Federation and the Living Law Firm for their efforts in during yesteryear's journey leading up to where we are now, and just kind of watch the whole thing evolve. We have plenty of content to build this journey forward, and of course our audience is the also known as the de facto or inferior jurisdiction service providers. And we do want to extend our appreciation to those who are living, breathing men and women, and the various years they've spent dedicated to learning services, considering those services, learning, training, and executing those services throughout the decades. I definitely want to bestow our appreciation to them, as in always in every effort. As we examine the articles, we always want to encourage cooperation at all times, and we do appeal to many different law enforcement agencies and emergency services providers, we being the Peacekeeping Task Force and the Federation as a whole. We do not entertain disparaging remarks or condone any kind of acts of retribution or perceived retribution for any shortcomings that has been purported to have taken place by people and any other schools of thought against any of the historical woes and just layered corruption over the years. We just don't want to, we're not in the position or business for casting dispersions towards anyone at this point, for sure. It never pays out as any kind of nurturing relationship. So just keep that in mind, everybody. I just want to kind of always, as much as I feel needed to reiterate, we don't condone lack of cooperation or dispersions. That's just not in our, it's not baked into our service or our fabric as an organization. But I do want to offer that as a reminder, and periodically I will probably need to do so again, just to reiterate when needed, and then move into other articles. And this is going to be a great one. So welcome back, everyone, to the Peace Bridge Network podcast. This is your bridge to sovereign truth. This is the bridge that the Federation had thought to at a certain point, and this was around 2020, 2019, 2018. incidentally began the realization of the Federation calling the states of the Union into session. So around the tail end of 2018, 2019, 2020, we're going to find articles that corroborate this effort at that time. And that's when the Peacekeeping Task Force was birthed. And from there, even now, the Peace Bridge Network being our networking effort, which is our overall network. It's a worldwide network. And it took many hard, focused months dedicated to building this particular network strategy. And as the thumbnail shows, this particular set of articles, as a 3-part series, delivers civil orders directly to the peacekeepers and law enforcement who received them in 2014. And it is perceived as having done nothing at that point. But this is brought to you by the Peace Bridge Network, so just keep that in mind. Sheriffs, marshals, police chiefs, provost marshals, joint chiefs, Articles 6 through 9, plus as on through there, but that those time frames, this was in June 10th to be exact, civil orders named those specific service providers. But today we can establish why PKTF became inevitable when those offices during those times, the lawful duty went ignored. Now, to what degree we don't quite know. We're not privy to those details, those subsequent details as of yet, but we can at least gauge what we see or don't see taking place from 2014 until now. And this is, again, 12 years. So we got a lot. We have at our disposal. We have the ability to kind of observe, as opposed to being exposed to real-time observations of international public notices. Where do they go at that point? It's a bit more difficult to see in real time when delays take place. Why are those delays taking place? But as opposed to 12 years, you can kind of gauge and scale what significant changes has come about from those public notices. And I have to admit, our articles, especially Article 9 in this case, which is it was a final notice from Article 7 and 8. And Article 9 is I believe, many pages. I think it's over 40 pages. And just to be honest, I'm not sure how people would have received, and people being those in those agencies would have perceived that information. Just to be fair and honest, and I do try to empathize and place myself as the director of the Peacekeeping Task Force, placing myself in those shoes and seeing how it might have been. And again, we're relying on hindsight and being focused on looking at from a sizable distance now, looking back and being able to safely identify what was put forward then, and through the years what was put forward subsequently. Also helps to contribute to what is the audience, what are their expectations when being provided these international public notices. Then, as opposed to now, also those have changed because of priorities, the evolution of and announcement and evolution of the state assemblies. So all of these particulars, and from the passing of time, it's just going to be really interesting to be fair and balanced, but at the same time embracing what was put forward at that time as concerns, just genuine concerns and evidences, empirical evidences, references, acknowledgments of concerns, opportunities for debate, which is always a healthy approach towards concerns needing to be discussed. So all of these things in their totality, looking back then until now, we're going to have a really great barometer as we move forward into where we are now and what was missing or what wasn't yet needed as a significant reinforced service, advocate service, peacekeeping service from the Federation at that time. And we will notice that, well, my office has noticed that it was the absence of the state assemblies through 2014, 15, 16, 17 in particular. But so it's going to be interesting to, so once we know this, I have observed this, then 2015, 16, or the remainder of 2014, and the other 16, 17, 18 in particular, those years, what the Federation articles were conveying regarding peacekeeping and peacekeeping acknowledgement of such articles. So it's going to be fascinating to be able to just walk through all of those and that hindsight perspective looking back, and then also being in the present now. It's really great. So I hope everybody enjoys the same perspective and anticipation and optimism that I do, because I think it's going to be a really great revelation and validation of services that are present today. All right. So I'm going to read from these notes here as far as just a summarization, a summation of what was put forward in the June 10th, 2014 domestic police officers, U.S. Marshals, Provost Marshals, members of the Bar Association, and the American Armed Services. This is what caught my attention when looking through and gleaning from what was put forward in the Article 7. So we have Article 7 and Article 8 that led to the final default Article 9. For purposes of administration of government services on American state soil, the federal government is a corporation with no more civil authority on the land than said corporation here, said corporation there, being incorporated, having nothing to do with the federal government. So in this case, the example is JCPenney, so a merchant dealer, Harley Davidson, oddities like that, feeling the need to use those kinds of obvious non-governmental services, but corporations, equating to anything regarding federal government. Corporations in general, or federal government in general, as an incorporated entity, should always capture the minds of those who would have a sensitivity to those things, those underpinnings regarding government. It is quite shocking, actually, to consider the legitimacy of a governmental body as being no more legitimate than a merchandise corporation or small engine machines corporation like Harley Davidson or whatnot. But it's just interesting, that approach, of course. Other aspects of that June 10th, 2014 issue was Posse Comitatus. Posse Comitatus is to be observed and enforced on the land of the domestic organic states, regardless of any executive order to the contrary issued by, under that time was President Obama, acting as President of the United States of America or as the President of any incorporated entity whatsoever. If corporate president said, Obama should order any member of the U.S. military or any armed agency personnel, BATF, IRS, NSA, FEMA, etc., to open fire upon American citizens, it would constitute a war crime against non-combatant civilians. So, of course, I was around during that year, and I don't recall this as being a concern. I'm just going to have to try to recollect myself, refer to other researchers and try to align the timeline, align it, put it together so I can appreciate what was taking place in 2014. And yes, myself, I was quite immersed in research. I was also still in the military at that time, very well aware, or more aware as opposed to earlier years, of what was taking place during 2014 and 15. Incidentally, I became more consciously aware of my surroundings as a full-grown man around 2008, 2009, if that adds any perspective to anyone here listening to this podcast. Before that, no, I had no appreciation for much of anything, sadly, as far as anything political, of course. And then this article then goes on to say your 3-step duty was to investigate corporate fraud claims based on this the civil order, notify your leadership, number 2, and then number 3, take conclusive action so lawful remedy can be discussed. These were measurable steps in the right direction. What happened? And looking forward, it appears to be nothing. Nothing. So, not good, fellows.
Our podcast will make everyone aware of what a de jure government is, how far we have come to restore it, what it took to get here, and what it's going to take from you, peacekeepers, to get us to where we need to be as far as becoming that competent transitional civil government alternative is concerned. We need all our U.S. citizens to remember who you are, that you are Americans first, and to learn what it means to be American. None of us knew. There is no way for us to know because it's no longer being taught to our children by our school systems or to us by our parents. All of us thought we were American since we were born here, but that has not been the case for over 160 years. Educating yourself is the key here. To prevent the potential for massive chaos and civil unrest as we transition from de facto to de jure governance, we need our U.S. citizens to reclaim your birthright political status as Americans and refuse to be a part of the demise of America. You play a most strategic role in moving this transition along much more expeditiously and as peacefully as is humanly possible. From his 30,000-foot view, our PKTF executive director knew that we would need to keep our de facto government and the American public abreast of what is going on with our de jure government's reconstruction and transition. So he decided to focus on news. That is why he chose the URL pktfnews.org for our website and provides syndication for every single county assembly to report their local development. To that end, we also recently launched a newspaper for our American government called the Assembly Ledger. It's currently published quarterly. In our newspaper, we will broadcast the news of our American government's existence, of our transitional activities as we restore our de jure assembly governments, of what we are doing on the ground in our local communities, and of our expectations for everyone, citizens and nationals alike, to adhere to our form of law and justice. By being this transparent, the PKTF can help to minimize the potential for civil unrest and social anxiety from being fostered out of an atmosphere of fear of the unknown. The Assembly Ledger will feature news reports that can put the peaceful, competent, and collaborative actions of our American government's resurgence on public display as we attempt to ease the people's fears and inhibitions surrounding this new and unfamiliar concept called a de jure government. We have 2 land jurisdiction state assemblies to reconstruct. They are the state assemblies and the American state republics, not to be confused with the federal state republics. We have 2 soil jurisdiction union state assemblies to reconstruct. They are the missing American town assemblies and the county assemblies. How can we accomplish this expeditiously and peacefully? Your job and my job, our job, if we should choose to accept it, is to reconstruct them all at the same time. That is PKTF's proposed strategy, looking at this from a 30,000-foot view. And yes, we know it sounds like a mission that's impossible. As I've described to you how the PKTF has been looking at our transitional competence from this high view, we have observed what has been tried in the past, what has worked and what hasn't, to arrive at this determination, which is, in order for this transition to happen responsibly and competently, the reconstruction of the de jure assemblies must take place in both jurisdictions, land and soil, at the same time. If we are to be in alignment with our principles of our American common law and our Republican form of government, where the people rule from the bottom up. We have observed the strategies proposed throughout the years. In 2015, our Federation's Fiduciary, Anna, proposed, quote, reorganize the government of the continental United States beginning at the township level and working your way up to the state level. You have more civil authority on the land than the entire federal government. Exercise that authority. Let the rest of the world know what has happened here, unquote. We observed in 2021, our Federation's Officer Harold admit during their Federation support project discussions, quote, the Federation threw up its hands a long time ago and said, you got to be kidding. There's over 3,000 counties. How the devil are we going to deal with that? We have enough trouble with 50 states, unquote. Then the Federation Fiduciary's perspective shifted, as we observed in 2024, to take a different strategy. Quote, the primary goal is now and has always been to organize and get the states standing first, unquote. Quote, you do need to organize your state assembly first, but there is no reason you can't develop the counties in tandem, unquote. When I was asked to serve as the affiliate director of the Peacekeeping Task Force and build out my vision, it was because my strategic approach was not linear, not a first and a second, then a next approach. Our Republican government structure works from a basis that the jurisdictions are interdependent, with the sole jurisdiction directing the whole show. Because we are coming in backwards from the sea jurisdiction to the land jurisdiction, we are naturally disoriented. When you take notice that historically, the soil jurisdiction people are the same land jurisdiction people who just stepped up to serve in an additional capacity, then it doesn't seem like a mission impossible. We need 2 county electors to present the voice of the people in the international land and sea state assemblies, called, for example, the Illinois Assembly. And we need 3 fiduciary deputies from each county to present the financial interests of our counties at the international land state assemblies that we call, for example, the Illinois Republic. That is, the American state republics with the capital T, not to be confused with the federal state republics with the lowercase t. So you can see the logical progression of how our Republican form of government was built and how it makes perfect sense to reconstruct our Republican assemblies at the same time. That's how the PKTF proposes that we strategically do this. In this way, we waste no one's energy, we waste no one's time invested, we leverage and maximize our efforts to our advantage. Look how far our de jure government has come from 2020 to 2026. Imagine how much further we could be if we compress that time with this strategic approach in the coming years. Americans, whether you are a U.S. citizen or a declared state national or both, we need all hands on deck. Let's see what we can get accomplished with our transition from de facto to de jure governance within the next 3 years. Our de jure American government needs to make a transitional plan. The PKTF is able and ready to assist you with that. My question to the American state nationals is, 5 years have passed now. Who is ready to go to that next level with the Peacekeeping Task Force at your service? We must always remember that the only valid reason for any government to exist is to preserve the peace and happiness of the living people that governments are ordained to serve. So to you, U.S. citizens, you need to take notice that when any government instead preys upon the living people, any living people, it loses its legitimacy and devolves into nothing more than an organized predatory crime syndicate. And the only real question is, who or what is it going to attack next? There's only one remedy to stop all of this criminality, and that is to make this transition back to our lawful de jure government at every level, in every town, in every county, and in every state. That is the job of all of us who call ourselves Americans. Can you think of any other viable option we have? Let me know in the comments below. I want to leave you with this encouraging video from some of our state national volunteers. We can do this. We must do this. Until next time, thank you for watching this episode of the Resurgence Pulse Report. Watch this and be encouraged.
We cannot fail. We are willing and able to do this work physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We have resolve and determination. We walk the talk and work every day to bring the du jour into reality. We have excellent tools to complete our work. We set realistic and achievable goals. We learn and research constantly. We have a timeline. We track our progress. We measure our strengths and weaknesses. We continually improve and revise accordingly. We conduct ourselves with peace and love. We keep the peace and uphold the public law. We report crime. We let our yes be yes and our no be no. We operate as fiduciaries under the prudent man standard. We aren't giving up. We aren't going away. We are not taking no for an answer.